Welcome everybody to the Synapse Philosophy Group, and we're breaking it down old school in the Stephenson's textbook. We're on page 254 on principle 15 of the 33 principles, and we're working through the senior text. We have Alan doing the reading this week, and he's been doing such a good job. I'm going to let him continue, and he's doing wonderfully. Thank you, and I'm ready to rock.
Okay, Article 331 in the senior text, there can be no motion in matter without the effort of force. Principle number 15 states, matter can have no motion without the application of force by intelligence. Sorry, my phone buzzed me. Sorry, this is the fact that is so obvious that it's easy to overlook. No one ever saw motion, but everyone has perceived matter moving. It was the matter which was seen, and when it possessed motion, it was perceived that it changed location or was changing location. An act is an intangible thing, and it is never perceivable to us unless matter makes it so. If no force were applied to matter, it would be totally inert. Of course, no one has ever seen matter which was in that condition. It is the writer's opinion that if such were the case, it would cease to exist. It is the proposition reduced to the absurd. All matter has motion and therefore has what chiropractic calls universal life. The origin of force being intelligence, then any motion is indicative of intelligence, if one cares to note it. But how about matter, which has a force applied to it and does not change location? We know such to be true. The answer to that is we must apply the laws of motion and realize there are greater forces than the applied one, which cause the matter to remain stationary. A given portion of matter has molecular motion, which we cannot see and may apparently be at rest. Okay.
All right.
There's some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's a little, it's grasping at an intangible, and it's interesting to think about, like he says, that no one ever saw motion, but everyone has perceived matter moving. It's the matter which was seen, and when it possessed motion, it was perceived that it changed location or was changing location.
Now, because we do is we visualize thought and mental impulses as motion through the neural system in and out, but in reality, it could be instantaneous, with a neural connection. Do we see
thought? We see it as instantaneous. There may be a time lapse, but so small that we can't perceive it.
What does this one have to do with chiropractic? Why is this in here? I'll be quite honest, what does this really have to do with the depth and principles of chiropractic itself?
Well, it's going into the conversation of intelligence, force, and matter, and how what we perceive as motion is force creating affecting the matter. When we say there's limitations of matter, so if the matter is affected by force, if the matter is limited, then the change that's going to occur is limited, and the intelligence is still being expressed 100%, even if the matter is limited and can't react to it appropriately.
We could also think of it in terms of vertebra moving. They didn't move by themselves. Innate spirit moved them. There was a mechanical force to cause them to move, whether it's endogenous or exogenous. Well, yeah, okay.
Well, they move. If there's a force on the vertebra, that's an external force, then innate reacts to that, and how much it moves and whether it moves appropriately or not is going to be adapted by innate to within the limits of the matter.
Yeah. Anybody else having some insights or want clarity, or should we move on? Carol,
Well,
you
the
want to
function
move
of
down?
force,
Go ahead,
the
Steve.
function of force is to unite intelligence and matter.
Yeah.
And intelligence doesn't have motion.
Yeah.
Force is the link between the two.
Yeah. It's creating, you can have matter and then you have force. The intelligence directs the force to maintain the matter.
And so we have the physical and the non-physical, and the link is the force, right?
Yeah.
And the function of force is the function of matter is to express force. And so then this in part is an explanation of there can be no motion without the effort of force. The matter is moved by force, and the function of matter is to express force. And so this is a further dissertation on the relationship between force and matter and how they interact with one another, whether we perceive it or not. What we perceive as matter motion is really perceiving it as a perception of force in action.
I believe, as much as I like to put everything into a linear puzzle that can be solved, there are some questions that even chiropractic philosophy, which is what attracted me to chiropractic, was the philosophy, but even chiropractic can label the steps, but it doesn't have the answer as to what the actual link, how it works mechanically. There is a wonderment between the intelligence and the force.
Well, we still have no idea what happens in the synaptic cleft. Think
We
about
don't?
that.
I thought that was transported acetylcholine in those packets that go across the river. And then
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, we could pay the ferryman to get to the other side, but we don't even know how all that works, really. I mean, how is through a synapse and then tells you to move your arm or let your bladder clear or whatever it might be. I think it's just one of those amazing things. We could put it in formulas of chemistry, but in reality, it's magic.
You're agreeing with, yeah, I agree with you.
Beautiful. Let's move on to 16.
Okie doke. Article 332, universal force in all kinds of matter. Principle number 16 states, universal intelligence gives force to both organic and inorganic matter. If universal force is universal, which it is impossible for any matter to be where universal force is not. Organic matter is but inorganic matter built, organized into structures, and has its full quota of universal forces. It should be kept in mind, however, that they are fully under control of innate intelligence, that is to say, adapted. If the student has followed the subject closely through the book, he will see easily that innate does not lack for forces to adapt and assemble for her use, and all without a cable from universal intelligence for conduction. That's a cute line. That's the end of that statement.
That's the end of that one. If universal forces, which it is impossible for any matter to be. So in that, I just keep, when you were reading that, what I thought of was the book Conversations with God. God is all things that are and God and all things that aren't. Okay. And that's what I remember from that whole book. And that's what he's going for. Organic matter is but inorganic matter built, organized into structure, and it has its full quota of universal forces. So it's 100% universal intelligence at all times. If the student has followed the subject closely through the book, he will see easily that innate does not lack the forces to adapt and assemble for her use, and all without a cable for universal intelligence for conduction. So it doesn't need the spinal cord. It doesn't need matter. Is that what he's talking about? What do you guys get from that?
Well, if we go back to that line you were looking at, there says organic matter is but inorganic matter built, organized into structures, and has full quota of universal forces. I'll go back and use an analogy I know I've used before and talk about a tree when it's alive has an innate intelligence that allows it to adapt to its environment. You cut the tree down and turn it into the desk that's sitting in front of you, and it's a piece of wood.
Right.
There's no innate intelligence there, but it's still 100% organized. Universal is still present in the tree, in the wood, maintaining it in its integrity and its form, even though it's now an inanimate object. We still call it organic material because it was a tree, but in reality, it's an inanimate object with no innate intelligence. There's no life in it. It can't adapt any longer. And then other universal forces will act on it and it'll break down and become damaged or become, if it's a tree laying out that fell in the woods, other forces will act on it. It'll go back to becoming earth. Its impermanence will be manifest.
Yeah, that's good. That's insightful. Very insightful. I say we keep going. You guys, anybody have any questions or insights?
Bob, you're muted, Bob.
What page are we on?
We just, where am I? We were on 255
Bottom.
at the bottom, number 6, principle 16 we just read.
Is Bob Crystal stripping for us?
So, hi.
Very sexy pectoralis here, Mr. Crystal.
Yeah, it's hot here. Carol went swimming in the river. She's cold. Anyhow, yeah, the cable from Universal. What I got from that was we're Universal. We're immersed in Universal, and there's no separation, and so of course there's no need for a cable. I think it was
That's
really
right.
that simple.
If you look at page 13, that's figure 6. It shows it.
Exactly.
Hold up your book. No, I mean the figure 6. Oh yeah, I know that one. Okay. I've got so many notes in here and things I can't even move my pages anymore. That's insightful, Bob. Thank you. And I saw that you're speaking at New Beginnings. All right, that sounds. I wish I could be there for it.
Bobby, what day are you speaking?
My wife says Friday.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there Friday with Josh Siegel.
Oh, good. I haven't seen Josh in so long, except for on this call.
You know what happened to him, right?
No.
Apparently, they lost the baby late in the 3rd term.
Aw.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
So I don't bring it up, but
Well, thanks for letting me know.
yeah.
I'm glad we'll be seeing you guys in October. That's great.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to go to Lyceum, and it's all the same day. It's ridiculous, but whatever.
Going to DE?
Not sure yet.
Isn't it all at the same time? New Beginnings, Lyceum, and DE. I think it all at the same time. Something.
No.
Lyceum and New Beginnings are the same time. D's, I think, a week difference.
Okay.
Yeah, DE's the week after.
23rd.
All right.
Anyhow, back to the lesson.
Let's go back to principle 17. Alan, you're doing a great job. Can you read that one?
17. So we're on page 256 at the top. Article 333 in the senior text, cause and effect. Principle number 17 states, every effect has a cause and every cause has effects. It is evident that one could not exist without the other. There could be no reason for the existence of a cause if it did not have effects. It is an axiom that there could not be an effect without a cause causing it. The study of chiropractic is largely a study of the relations between cause and effect and cause. Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. It is evident that without the other. Short and sweet. The study of chiropractic is largely the study of relations between cause and effect, and the effect and cause. I mean, it's that one's self-explanatory. I like it.
Give an example.
Go for it.
You give an example.
Me give an example? When we have a subluxation, it affects the the function of our internal environment.
Give an example of effect and cause.
When I drop a dumbbell on my foot, the effect, it causes a visceral response, and I go into fight or flight. Anybody else have anyone?
So just to play a game, then, is a subluxation a cause or an effect?
It can be both.
Okay.
I think. Anybody else?
You're muted, Carol.
Carol, our philosophy PCS. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both because, sometimes you fall or something and you get subluxated and then you get a symptom or effect.
And then it can also come from endogenous. It comes from the organs.
Yeah.
And then it's an effect.
I had this bad cut on my
I think it's a
foot.
cause and effect at the same time. I think it's simultaneously a cause and an effect.
I think it's both. Yeah.
Carol, go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh.
You got a cut.
Okay, wait a second. There we go. Am I on?
Yeah.
You're on.
Well, I got this bad cut, and I'll tell you, the effect of it is it gives a lot of pain when it's healing. So is it a cause or an effect? I think I hurt myself, and then the effect is the pain. So even though I'm not maybe subluxated from it, it's pretty bad. An injury.
I just had a thought of a chemical stress.
Yeah.
Will cause you to be ill, right? Too much sugar, a vaccine, or something. And the effect,
Watching the news.
watching the news, the effect is the subluxation or change in function. And cause and effect and cause. I don't know why he's really differentiating those two. So what else did you guys get out of that? To me, there's not a lot of depth into that, truthfully. From previous ones, but what do you guys feel? Honestly, Principle 17 is not life-changing to me. These are the middle ones that I always sort of glance over and I never spent a lot of time with. And I did that with the last week's, and those were really in depth. But some like these, like Principle 17, it's like, all right, did he put that in there to get 33 of those?
Yeah.
Because it's a spiritual number. I don't know. It's my thought.
Well, isn't there, I think in another one of the books, in one of BJ's books, I think there's 75 principles.
I'm
Oh, is
75.
that right?
I have to go look it up. I had it written down. Somebody had said that on some call I was on, and I wrote down where it was, and I meant to go look it up, and I hadn't. So
I only find that because I want to see those. Bob, go ahead.
What popped into my head, and so I might as well share it, when this discussion about this cause and effect was going on, was structure function. And it seems like that's maybe what he's alluding to, or at least that's what he brought up in my mind right away, was structure function. And Pasquale used to say that. He used to say those two words together, structure function, knowing that they were inseparable.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that.
That plays into subluxation being cause and effect. The subluxation is caused potentially by the limitations of matter and not being able to be the force that's come into a body being adapted appropriately by innate because of the limitations of matter. Then secondarily and instantaneously, there's an effect of the subluxation that causes a sequelae of sequential events within the body of where the subluxation exists.
Okay. I like it.
But I think that a lot of chiropractors get lost and don't think about subluxation as they always think about subluxation as something I want to correct, but they don't think about where it comes from and that that the subluxation is an adaptive change, but because of the limitations of matter, but it's an adaptive change that innate is used to in some way initially limit a problem.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on target with that, you know. All
Think
right.
of it, subluxation is in chiropractic has become, it's a bad thing, but in reality, somehow it's an adaptation that needs further work, but is not. Oh, there's a purpose to it in a lot of cases. It's later on that it becomes more of a negative issue sometimes.
Well, you know,
Anyway.
I've been literally teaching for years. That is a message from innate, which to me is a message from God. Serve me here. It's not the end result. The subluxation is not the end result. It's the first input. And then, you know, to me, that's communication, because I don't know where the research study was that 80% or something like that of the subluxations are endogenous. They come from inside. And then 17 or 20% or something like that come from the outside. You get hit by a truck, you're exercise wrong, you step off the curb improperly. So that's the thing is, you know, being on this war against the subluxation, instead of honoring it, and this is a message from spirit, the body saying, serve me here. That's where I see the differences of the medical fighter and the peaceful chiropractor. Because a lot of chiropractors, very principled chiropractors, just want to fight the subluxation. But if we look at it as communication, and that is life talking to me and serve me in this way, that's from, you know, the neural system outward, you know, that's a different concept.
It's a vitalistic concept as opposed to mechanistic. You're not trying to change it, you're trying to work with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Health is the entity.
Out of these 33 principles, when you just look at the numbers alone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 33, what is the most significant number? Bobby Crystal might be able to answer this one. There's a hint. Got to come from a Jew.
Uh-oh. On Rosh Hashanah, no less.
On Rosh Hashanah, what's the most significant number between 1 and 33?
What do you think it is?
Me?
If it comes from a Jew, it's going to be 18.
100% right. The most significant, very good, Alan. The most significant number in the Torah is number 18, and it stands for life. And so when chiropractors have a play on words, like me, I like that every month there's an 18th of the month. That's life. So on February 18th, it's 2 life. On April 18th, it's 4 life. On August 18th, it's an 8 life. And today on Rosh Hashanah, we're ready to do the 18th principle, which is life on the new year. Pretty cool.
September 18th, interestingly enough, is the chiropractic birthday.
Right. So what is if the play on words? 9 is what? An 8 plus 1 life. That's the chiropractic birthday. An 8 plus 1 life. That's how it adds up, like a riddle.
I like it.
And on that, I guess we go to number 18.
Let's rock and roll.
and Lashana Tova for all my Jewish friends. That's
Happy and
a good year.
a sweet new year.
All right, number 18 then, 334, the signs of life, principle number 18. The signs of life are evident in the intelligence of life. They are motions of the adaptive kind, which show the presence and government of a localized intelligence. They differ from the motions of universal intelligence in that they show selection and the judgment of local intelligence in every phase. They meet, use, or oppose every environmental circumstance if it is within the range of their limitations. There are 5 principles of life. Their names in order of importance are assimilation, excretion, adaptability, growth, and reproduction. An organism may have these signs so latent that it is difficult to tell whether the organism is alive or not. Yet, this low organism has its share, its quota, its requisite amount of intelligence for its state of organization.
Is that fascinating? Is that fascinating that number 18 is the signs of life?
I'm sure it's not by coincidence. I bet he planned it that way. Sisyphus used to talk about this, the 5 principles of innate is what he called it. And I have it on my desk, on my front desk as you walked in. You walk in: assimilation, excretion, adaptation, growth, and reproduction. If we're not if any one of those things are unbalanced, if we're not adapting, we're not functioning, not assimilating or excreting, or unable to adapt or grow. The system is beginning to fail. But the signs of life, that's awesome. What do you feel about it, Dave? What did you get from it?
I just felt that it had, so much content, that it's just, like it New Beginnings on Sunday morning. Skip George and George Rhodes used to do Green Book study from 7 to 9, and Pasquale would be there, Bobby Crystal would be there, Reggie Gold would be there, Ribley would be there, and we always were, it's 9 o'clock, damn, we'd like to just keep going and going. And I think that this principle number 18, we could comfortably talk about this for hours. There's just so much in there.
Yep. Within the state of their limitations. Okay. In that they show selection and judgment of local intelligence in every phase. They differ from motion and universal forces. If they show selection and judgment of local intelligence in every phase, they meet, use, or oppose every environmental circumstances. It is within the range of their limitations. There are 5 signs of life. So, Steve, what'd you get out of that? I think Steve's frozen.
Well, he's moving.
There he is.
Well, not much to say about it right now.
Gotcha.
Wow. That's a first.
All right. Anybody want any clarity?
18. I'd like to hear Haig, what your definition and an example is of assimilation.
Well, I'm not necessarily sure. I'm thinking through that as we're going through it. Those are exactly the one I'm thinking of is assimilation. And to assimilate and to adapt to me are very similar, but I don't know exactly. I've got to look up assimilation. Let's do it like we used to.
It's the opposite of excretion. It comes
Right.
in.
So
And that's why it says in order of importance.
Okay.
You feed it, and without that.
But it also
Yeah.
says the process of taking in and fully understanding information or ideas. Okay. Number 2 is the absorption and digestion of food and nutrients by the body or any biological system. The assimilation of knowledge of the Greeks, it says as an example. So, this is also our, if we're looking at the signs of life, if we're looking at the lowly amoeba, it's got to be able to assimilate nutrients, like you say, excrete its waste, adapt to its environment, right? Or else it perishes. Growth, and reproduction. Those are the signs of life. If any of those are not happening, just like we talk about a dead body or a dead tree does not have innate, then there's no life. It's not able to adapt. It's not going to reproduce. It's not going to excrete, right?
Is assimilation like you eat an apple and then the innate intelligence decides, where the particles of that apple is going to go to, whether it's going to be the eyes, the heart valves, the bone, and stuff like that. It's properly assimilating. Do you have it that way or no?
I would say that's pretty much what it is using the fuel for function. Yeah.
So interesting. I was thinking that at first, and I think that that's totally correct. I mean, if you can take these on that physiological level and say, yeah, assimilation, you eat it, and then you throw out what you didn't need. It adapts to what you need in your body. You grow from there, and you can make physiological new people. On the other side, what you said about ideas, interestingly, if you start to think about it and go down this list, you can assimilate an idea, you get exposed to an idea, and you think about it as we're doing here. We discuss it. There's parts of it that we go, well, maybe that doesn't work for me. Okay, that's excreted. You can then take that idea and twist it to, adapt to a new situation that you're in. As we take chiropractic and talk about these today, we have knowledge that these people didn't have, and we adapt it to our environment and the knowledge that we've gained over time. The growth then is the expansion that happens as you gain that information and adapt it and expand it and reproduce it to share with others. And so you can take it from that level of physiological, but you can also twist it on that other side and have it as that entirely intellectual. All these things can be used on an intellectual level as well. And I never thought about it that way before. And does that work for anybody?
I think it works perfectly for me, because reading that is what I'm looking at the intellectual level, and the assimilation is, once I read the definition, made a lot more sense, and it was perfectly what you were saying there.
I never thought of that before.
Chiropractic? Think about that. How is this relating to? Go ahead, Bob. You got something?
Yeah. I was thinking about like these trucks that have been pulling by my house lately and bringing big loads of sheetrock and different things like that. And they drop it off and it gets delivered into this house. And this guy knows how to do this. He grabs those things, and that guy knows how to do that, and he grabs those things. And they're reconstructing a house that they formerly demolished. And if you think of us, I mean, millions and millions of cells are getting worn out every single second, and they're being replaced with millions of fresh new cells. And it's almost a whole lifelong project of demolition and reconstruction. And so assimilation, in as far as what seems to be the most the biological expression of assimilation, is that it's doing all that very intelligently. I mean, these carpenters and these masons, they're all very intelligent. They're good at their jobs. Our bodies have this within it, this intelligence that just knows when a shipment of this or that shows up, what to do with it and how to use it, put it to good use,
And that's where I get, it takes the architect to put that down and to coordinate the harmony of the orchestra to build that house. And it's the great architect. It's, to me, I look right back to the spiritual intelligence of God coordinating that show. Now, this does say,
Well, I'm into that.
amen. There are motions of the adaptive kind which show the presence and government of a localized intelligence. They differ from the motion of the universal forces. So that's innate. That's
Right.
different from the universal forces, right? This is governing the show. The architect's written the plans. The innate is the general contractor, right? That's running the show and coordinating all the people putting up the sheetrock down the street at Bob's house. And but that's innate intelligence. Okay, I'm understanding this a little better now. I'm understanding a little better. I like it. Thank you guys for all that clarity.
Well, that's good. That's a good. Both those work as a good analogy because the architect may design it, but then the guys that are on the job have to make those plans work in real time and space. And it didn't get measured, or it doesn't quite fit. How are we going to make this go? That localized intelligence has to make the Uber plan. We're all part of the Uber plan, and each of us is adapted differently to our environment.
Right. And each of us have a different environment.
Moment to moment.
Okay, good. I got a lot more clarity out of that. Steve, go ahead.
Steve disappeared.
You heading out? All right, buddy. I think, I don't know. There are 5 basic principles. All right. What do you guys think? Anything? Any more clarity? Anything else? You want to do 19?
Sure.
Let's hit 19 and we'll be done for the night.
Okay, 19, organized matter. Article 335, the senior text, organized matter, principle number 19 states, the material of the body of a living thing is organic matter. Organized matter is structures of molecules and atoms which have been assembled for the purpose of functioning adaptatively. They are structures that have been built by their innates to house them, the innates. They are therefore under the solicitous care of those intelligences, the same as any house would be under the care of its owner. The house of an innate intelligence is built and kept in repair by the owner. The structure is precious to the intelligence that built it, but it is not precious as a structure to the universal intelligence, except insofar as it is a part of the universal scheme to have structures built in order to tear them down. Bada bing.
Bada bing. That goes back to Bob's, you had to tear down the old place to rebuild the new one and in an organized manner to create something wonderful.
It goes back to innate adapts, and universal forces are unsolicitous. Universal, we're all part of that universal, but universal is just, it's got the big scheme, it's the big picture, and we're all part of it. But the innate within is the adaptive force that's solicitous for us to try and maintain us and adapt those universal forces for us.
Yep. Therefore, under solicitous care of intelligence, the same as any house would be under care of its owner. So maintaining your house, keeping it functioning at its best, it's already been built by that universal force expressed in innate and constantly repairing, kept in repair by its owner, not disrepair. The structure is precious to the intelligence that built it, right? Because you can't have one without the other. You have to have intelligence expressed in matter, but it is not precious as a structure to universal intelligence, okay? Except insofar as it is part of the universal scheme to have structures built in order to tear them down. Universal doesn't care about the body itself. That's innate's job. Even though innate is an expression of universal, universal doesn't care if it's gone or what have you. It still always is. It's just a change in the energy from one form to the next. Innate is the housekeeper. Innate is the housekeeper, and it needs the material to be expressed.
So if you had organized matter is structures of molecules and atoms which have been assembled for the purpose of functioning adaptively. You know, molecules and atoms that don't have an innate intelligence have a universal intelligence. So it's just that special something, so to speak, they talk about that is just taking that universal intelligence and kind of, it's almost like you think that it's almost like you got to say that wherever there's innate intelligence, there has to be universal intelligence. But wherever there's universal intelligence, there doesn't have to be innate intelligence.
Right. I think that's on target. What do you guys think?
All squares are rectangles. Not all rectangles are squares.
I tried to explain that to my kids the other day.
So that's the innate and universal. Innate is universal, but universal is not innate.
Right. But it's like, you know, what he's saying here is organized matter is structures of molecules and atoms which have been assembled for the purpose of functioning adaptively. It's like you can't negate the credit of what the molecules and the atoms already have being in existence.
And he's leading us into the next one. We're going to start on 20. Let's just mark that. We're going to start on 20 next week because he's leading us into innate. And, you know, I'm seeing his process now. Universal intelligence, going into matter. They're necessary. And now he's going to go into innate intelligence. Because what I just thought of is a potter or somebody throwing clay. You know, I have this grand idea. I'm going to make an ashtray. And we've got to spill it. It could be just clay all by itself, but it takes that innate intelligence to create something beautiful. And then you have to maintain it and function. I think that kind of works. I'm not sure. What'd you guys get out of that? Anything else? Well, I think we broke it down pretty well tonight. I think we broke it down really well. We made it all to principle number 20. Which ones did we do tonight? We
started with 15.
15. I got to write it down because I want to make sure I post them properly. 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. We did pretty well.
We rocked through some stuff here.
We rocked through some stuff because once we get through this, I want to get back to some DD too.
I like going through all 33 here.
We're going to go through all 33.
Feeling good about it. Yeah.
We're going to go through them all. I know I was waning a little bit, but I think we pick up on innate intelligence on principle 20. All right. Anybody else? You got anything else you want to share before we're done? Well, then that's it. And I love and appreciate you guys. All right. I get a lot out of these. We're breaking it down old school is like I like to say, because
this is fun stuff.
Yeah, this is chiropractic, man.
It is. That doesn't mean it's not fun.
Huh?
Doesn't mean it's not fun.
It's very fun. I'm here to play. I'm playing. I love you guys. Have a good night. I'll see you next week. Ciao.
Love you guys. Thank you all.
Good night. Bye, Carol.